Stay right there. Stay right there. Who do you think you're going to go sit? Okay. Go. Hi, I'm your host tonight on What Matters at the Roundtable. August 25th, 2015. On Pegasus on Channel 13, 7:30 live. You can call us, area code 607-272-0319. We're live in the studio. You can call. With me here tonight, special guest. We are in Reverend Benson's slot. He's still in Nevada. Actually, he's on his way back. I hope you had a great time baptizing, preaching the gospel. We are sitting in for him, his slot tonight. What Matters at the Round Table. We're here with a special guest, Mayor Svante Myrick. Also with me here, co-host Milton, Webb. Our hours for the round table is Wednesday at 9 p.m., also Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m., and Sunday at 3:30 p.m. after church services. We want to send our condolences to the House family. They had a funeral, Sean House and Renee House. He buried his mother today. We want to send our condolences unto the families. We wish them well and wish God comfort them in their loss. Amen. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Svante,
Yes.
hey.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I really
Good,
appreciate
good.
it. Yeah.
You see that the elections is coming up, and
Yes.
and people is, we want them to go to the polls. We want them to say, you know what? Hey, listen, the mayor has been doing things good for us. He's the living wage. We want things to happen positive
Yeah.
for this next 4 years. We want people to get out and vote.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. This election is about, all elections are about, what kind of city we want to live in. And whether or not we want to live in a city where people make enough to get by, where people have opportunities to get jobs, where those opportunities lead to salaries that allow them not just to survive, but to actually live. That's what we mean when we say a living wage.
That's right.
And a wage where you can not just worry about your food and just barely make the rent,
Right.
but know that if something happens, you can go to the doctor.
Right.
It's enough money that you can save for retirement. It's enough money that when your kids get out of school, you can go away for a day or two.
Right.
You can afford it to take them on vacation. That's what a living wage is. And I think people need to know in this election and in all elections that there are people who believe in that, believe in them, and people who don't. And I do. Last time I was on the show, we were talking about how we made the city of Ithaca a living wage employer.
That's right.
We even in our hardest budget times, I took the salaries from our lowest paid employees and raised them to the living wage. What's
Right.
now about $14 an hour. Right? We did that because I remember my mother raised the four of us on a minimum wage. And you just cannot. She had to work 2 jobs, and still we went without a lot. We went without often. And I told myself as a kid, I said, if I was ever in a position to do so, I would take care of my employees. I would be a better boss than my mom's bosses were. And I think you have to do that. I think too, as the head of a city, you have to set an example to all the other employers in your area. you know. I've got to be able to look every business owner in the eye and say, I know it's hard to look at your bank account and say, what would happen if I paid my lowest paid employees more?
That's right.
Because I did that same thing, and I decided it was worth it, and you should do the same too.
Right.
But it's not just wages, and I think in Ithaca, more than in most places, we have to just start to vote for people who have our backs when it comes to housing.
Yes.
Right? Because the wages can be high, but if the rent's even higher,
That's right.
then you're just moving backwards.
Right.
And we are in one of the most expensive places to live in the country, and we are in this position because for years we had politicians and elected officials who would claim they wanted affordable housing, but when it came time to build more housing,
Right.
they wouldn't do it. More housing, subsidized housing, like the housing that we've built in the last 3 years at Breckenridge, at Stone Quarry and Spencer Road. You might have seen those new places that have gone up. We're going to do the ribbon cutting next week. And new housing like we're trying to build on Hancock Street, the old PNC, you know, the old PNC site. Every step of the way, there are people inside City Hall, common council members, elected officials, who fight tooth and nail to stop those from being built. And they know they can do that with impunity because nobody remembers when it comes to election time.
Right.
You have to, here's the way it works inside City Hall. Somebody comes along and proposes an affordable housing complex, right? Those will help, like the people at Hancock will help about 80 people who are struggling right now to live in our community, will have a better quality of life, they'll be happier, they'll be healthier. The kids will be able to walk to school and back. Right, so they won't have to worry about transportation of the buses. They'll be able to walk downtown to apply for jobs, both them and their kids.
Right.
They will have a home from which they can build better lives.
That's right.
But those 80 people who are going to have better lives, they don't exist yet.
Right.
Or they exist, but they're living all throughout the county. They don't yet know that they're going to live in that building. Right? They don't even know that a building's proposed.
Okay.
Right? 5 years from now, they'll live there. But right now, they're just going about their business, trying to make it work, trying to raise their families. So if I'm on the city council, right, I see that I can oppose this building project. I can oppose it all day. And if it ends up happening anyway, well, nobody's going to be mad at me, right? Because those 80 people won't ever know that I opposed it. Well, I think it's time to shine a light on those folks who fight to make the city of Ithaca a gated community, a segregated community, the kind of community where you have to work 2 jobs just to live here. If you don't work at the university and if you don't work at the college, you have to work 2 jobs. You have to work 60 hours a week to live here. And that does not have to be the way of it. So I am fighting to get people out to the polls. We've got a primary in September, a general election in November. And I think we got to get people to vote.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, because the more people that's getting out there voting, the more better it'll be. Look into these things that he's talking about because they benefit you. They benefit all of us. If you don't look into it, then you can't sit back and say nobody didn't do nothing for you. But look into them. I mean, because when it comes right down to it, like he said, he's going to put the jobs out there. The jobs are out there. All you got to do is go get them. We was talking earlier, and like you said, from Wagman's on down to the Salvation Army, there's all kind of jobs need to be hired. Hiring. All you got to do is get out there and get them. It may not be what you want, but it's a start.
It's amazing how we've kickstarted the economy in the last 4 years. Because it's a funny thing, but when you make space for people, that's what we're talking about here. And when you build more housing, you build more office space. What you're doing is making more space for people to live and to create and to do the things they love. Well, it turns out that creates jobs. Because first there's construction jobs that come from actually building the spaces. Then there are service-related jobs that come from catering to the people who live in those buildings. And then there are the jobs that come from the interconnections that happen when you and your neighbor have a business plan and an idea, and you get help from your other neighbor who's an accountant, and you get help from your other neighbor. Those kinds of things that happen in great American cities has started to happen here in Ithaca. And as a result, we've grown jobs faster than any other community in New York State over the last 4 years. I don't know if you know this, but we now have the lowest unemployment rate in all of New York. So what's the challenge for the next 4 years? Challenge for now that we have more people in our community who have jobs than in any other community in the state, Our challenge is to raise the wages of those jobs and to
Right.
bring the rents down.
Yeah.
And I think we can do both of those by first going to New York State and to Albany. I know you guys are going to be with me on this, that we're going to go there and we're going
Yes,
to tell
right.
them that minimum wage is a poverty wage and that we have to do better and
That's
that
right.
employers have to do better. And then I think the second thing we can do is keep fighting right in City Hall to say, you know what, the rent is still too high.
Right.
We need more housing options.
Yeah.
You need more housing options for everybody. You need it for seniors. You need it for people with families. You need it for young professionals.
Yeah.
You need more housing options. And you even got to build some for students, because what's happening is the students are competing with those of us who are not students.
That's right.
And they are winning because either the parents have money,
Right.
they're on financial aid, which helps them with their rent, or they're willing to live 10 people to a house.
That's true.
How does one family compete with 10 people who are all willing and able to pay rent when, like, maybe in that family of 5, you got 2 people with incomes, maybe
If
even
you're
just
lucky.
one. If you're lucky,
Yeah.
right?
If you're
Sometimes
lucky.
even just one.
That's right.
So as long as there are more students than we have apartments, those
Right.
students are going to outcompete the rest of us. So we've got to
Yeah.
build more student apartments up by Cornell. We've got to build more up by Ithaca College, let them live there. And then we need to build more affordable housing in the rest of the city for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because basically, you got the landlords got them as cattles and commodity. Because they looking at, so they
Cash
deny you
true.
a place and said, well, you know what? I can get 4
Right.
in a place, and I could get $800 for each one of them.
Right? And it's not crazy, right?
Exactly.
Because you're like, yeah, I mean, if you're a landlord, you're going to make as much money as you can. That's sort of that's their gig. And that will continue until we have more. Because what happens now is the landlords, we have a 0% vacancy in the city. That means 100% of apartments are taken at any given time. What that means is that a landlord will put his place on the market. They put it on Craigslist.
Yeah.
They say it's $800. It gets taken in 2 days. So what do they do the next year? They go, well, it went really fast last time. What if I put it for $900 this time and see what happens? If it goes like this. So the next year they raise it to $1,000, then $1,200. You know, it's not. You know, you can't blame the landlords for doing this. This is sort of makes sense. It's what any of us would do in the same situation.
Get your money.
But if we had more housing in the market, if we had more units built, then all of a sudden you would advertise something at $800. You would sit there for a little. You put it on Craigslist. It would sit there for a couple weeks, and you'd have to start to ask yourself, well,
Why
maybe
is
I
it
should.
so- yeah,
Right. Maybe I should lower my
Lower-
rent.
That's right. That's right.
Until that happens, we're in trouble.
Exactly.
And we got to do. Yeah.
It's because there's no one competing with him
Right.
and his rent.
Right.
So
We're doing all the
it's
competing.
that's right.
The
Exactly.
landlords are not competing with each other. We're competing for those apartments. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something else, man. Because when you get to talking about like an efficiency for $700,
Yeah.
you know, and it's gone like within the hour.
Right.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
You just put it on here.
Right.
You know, and you know, 1 bedroom. Don't even think about getting a 3 bedroom.
It's too much money.
outrageously high.
Yeah.
Can't
do it.
You can't even.
Can't do it.
You can't do it. The studio. Look at the studio. 1,500.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like no, you can't do that.
And this doesn't just happen, right? That's what if I could hope that the folks back home understand, is that this doesn't just happen. This
Right.
happens when your economy grows, as ours has over the
Right.
last 30 years. You know, the university keeps growing, Ithaca College keeps growing, so there are more jobs here. But the people in power, the elected officials,
Yeah.
your mayors and your city council members, who don't fight to build more housing along with the new jobs,
Right.
what that means is, how many people do you know who used to live in the city, or their parents used to live in the city of Ithaca, and they've had to move out? How many people do you know that now live out in Newfield, or Groton, or Trumansburg,
That's
or
right.
Dryden, or the town of Ithaca?
Freeville, yeah, they
Freeville.
way out. That's
Right.
like pushing way out there.
Right, and some people I know a lot of people who want to live out in Freeville, right? Because it's quiet and it's nice and it's rural, and you know, maybe they go hunting or they go
And
fishing.
some of the time, the rent is cheap.
And the rent is
cheaper.
cheap. Right.
It is cheap.
Right, but some people want to and would live inside the city if they could.
Right.
Yeah.